Hello everybody and welcome to another video. As of filming this, the Streets of New Capenna spoilers just finished today, and I have to say, Wizards, you've been knocked out of the park. I have not been this excited for a set in a while, or at least a new set. And it's 3 colors, which I'm very excited about. I think we've gotten a plethora of fun cards to play, and I just wanted to give a quick little shout out to New Capenna before we get into this. But let's not waste any more time. Y'all are here to see some Evelyn deck tech. Let's get into it. Alrighty, to start off this deck tech, let's go over Evelyn and the goals of the deck. So Evelyn the Covetous is a very interesting mana symboled commander. She has a hybrid Rakdos, a hybrid Dimir, generic Swamp, and then 2 of any color. She's a legendary creature, vampire rogue, a 2/5 with flash, and reads, whenever Evelyn the Covetous or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, and you may spend mana as there were mana of any color to cast it. Now, there's a lot of different ways I feel Evelyn could go. However, due to some early play testing, I have found that the best way to do this and the goal of the deck is to flicker Evelyn as much as we can to get her ETB effect and using it to exile all of our opponent's riches and lands and all their goodies, and then playing them as our own and winning the game with them. So let's figure out how we're going to do that by first taking a look at our creature base. Now, as we already discussed, the goal of this deck is to try to collect as much as we can from our opponents to fill our treasure vaults. I mean, hello, boundless wealth, let's make it happen. Now, our creature base is going to lean light. We're only running 13 creatures in this deck, and for the most part, it will be vampires. However, we're not looking to go super vampire tribal here. Instead, we're treating our vampires like cantrips that basically say, collect. Give me the money, give me a top card. And the way we're going to be doing this is using creatures like Bloodghast, let's take a look at, which is a 2-drop, 2 black, cannot block, Vampire Spirit, 2/1. It has haste as long as an opponent has 10 or less life, but we honestly don't care about any of this. We care that it's a vampire with an amazing landfall trigger, which says, landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. Which means we pretty much get to play a land and collect. And since we're trying to collect and collect for boundless wealth, Bloodghast is a must include. Plus, it's easy sack fodder if we have to sacrifice due to an opponent's effect. So what's not to love? Another creature that we're going to be keeping big eyes on is our Bloodline Keeper. He is one of our more expensive creatures in the deck at 4 mana, but he's a flying 3/3 vampire that reads tap, create a 2/2 black vampire creature token with flying, which also reads tap, collect. Who doesn't want to collect at tapping speed? We also have in the deck Stromkirk Noble, Vampire Hexmage, Viscera Seer, and Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, which we'll take a moment to talk about him a little more. He's a 1/3 Vampire Cleric for 2 and a black that reads, whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. I find Vito to be quite useful because people don't love Evelyn. She is known to incite a little bit of aggro for exiling stuff and collecting, so we need to gain some life back, and his ability to give our creatures lifelink until end of turn is great. We may not be running big creatures that need the lifelink, but our opponents just might, and the goal is to collect. Now, non-vampire creatures, we are looking at a Solemn Simulacrum, draw a card, get some ramp. We don't have green, so that's pretty important. But one of our big creatures and one of our win cons is Jin-Gitaxias, Progress Tyrant from the new Neon Dynasty set. He is a 7 mana 5/5 legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor, that reads, whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy, and this ability only triggers once each turn. He also has, whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. This ability triggers only once each turn. This is not only great with what we're trying to do in terms of flickering our commander, meaning we cast 1 flicker, we get a 2nd flicker. We are actually going to be reusing some artifacts that we'll see later on that can be greatly useful if we happen to double them. But also, more importantly, Jin-Gitaxias doubles whatever we're grabbing from our opponents as well. And it's once per turn, But because we're doing a lot of these things at instant speed, I'll flicker twice this turn and collect twice. I'll flicker twice the next turn and collect twice. And we're just gonna build our riches. With our creatures talked about though, let's use this moment to pivot into our artifacts. Alrighty, now for artifacts, I want to go ahead and save us the time from going over all of the signets and talismans, etc. We're running a pretty standard artifact ramp package. If you need to know what that is, just Google Grixis artifact ramp. However, I do want to take a moment to specifically highlight two pieces of ramp that we're going to be using, which is Moonsilver Key, which we will be using to grab our Jeweled Lotus. Now, Jeweled Lotus typically isn't a card that you see in 3-color decks, but because of Evelyn's special type of mana cost, we can actually tap and sack Jeweled Lotus for 3 black, and that will meet all of the color requirements for Evelyn, meaning we can turbo boost her out, and we can grab it with the Moonsilver Key. Aside from those, we're running utility artifacts like Netherborn Altar to get access to Evelyn if her commander tax becomes too high, Sensei's Divining Top to mess with the top card of our library, a Vidalcan Orrery because this will allow us to cast cards at flash, allowing us to have access to the collection on everybody else's turns. And of course, we're going to be running some of the protection type of artifacts like our boots, a crawl space to keep people from swinging out at us, and then a Conjurer's Closet, so at our end step, we can always have a nice flicker effect. Alrighty, now let's take a moment and look at our instants and sorceries in the deck. And let's start with sorceries. We're running 2 standard board wipes in the forms of Damnation and Blasphemous Act. We're running some utility sorceries like Expressive Iteration, which will let us, I mean, come on, this card is ridiculous. Look at all that text for 2 mana. We also have a Jessica's Will to help us ramp and have access to more cards, a New Blood to allow us to steal our other creatures that we weren't allowed to collect, a Scheming Symmetry, allowing us to put the top card of not only ourselves but an opponent as well, and just maybe we might be able to trick them so we can bag whatever it is they grab, a Vandal Blast, and an Expropriate. Now for our instants, we're primarily looking at them as if we're going to be casting them from the collection. So we're wanting to try to lean very utility, very interactive, and very flickery. I'm running every single flicker effect I could find in these colors, which is Planar Incision, Ghostly Flicker, Essence Flux, and Displace. I'm also running removal like Chain of Vapor, Baleful Mastery, Chaos Warp, Deadly Rollick, and Dismember. Then we're having some typical good counterspells like Negate and Mana Drain, and we'll be running a good old Vampiric Tutor, so that way we can go and grab whatever we need and stick it right on the top. Alrighty, and finally, let's close things out with our enchantments and planeswalkers. For enchantments, we're running a lot of utility stuff that helps make up for what we may be lacking. We're going to be running Leyline of Anticipation for that great flash. We have No Mercy and Propaganda to protect us from board states. Reflections of Litjara will double our vampire cast, allowing us to get 2 collections. Rhystic Study is great card draw. Blessing of Leeches will protect Evelyn. Call the Bloodline will allow us to create 1/1 vampires, meaning collect, just by ditching our less useful cards. And I want to take a moment to talk about Braid of Fire. Now, Braid of Fire is a really interesting enchantment. It is 1 in red that reads cumulative upkeep, add a red to your mana pool. Now, this will only ever happen at your upkeep, meaning if we don't have anything to do with the mana during our upkeep, it will burn away. But our commander has flash, so we can use this to help cast our commander late game, or we can use it to help cast, I mean, anything. Well, the whole point is that we're casting instants and sorceries at flash speed. And lastly, we are only running a singular planeswalker, as planeswalkers typically are just going to get in the way of what we're trying to do, which is be instanty, be flashy, be speedy, and planeswalkers simply aren't that. However, Gaedrone Dahada will allow us to make up some of our lost life, all while corrupting our opponent's creatures. Plus, she may be able to bag and tag a very scary threat we weren't able to get for a turn, and if she's able to get to that ultimate, we can add commanders to our collection forever. Alrighty, y'all, that is it. You made it to the end of the deck tech. If you want to see the full deck list, just check the description below. You'll be able to see everything. I'm going to be working on this, so you may see some updates. What did I miss? The card's new. I might have missed something. Let me know what I missed in the comments. And of course, if you enjoy these type of deck techs, please make sure to subscribe. It makes me feel, pretty darn good. Cannot lie. Cannot lie. Other than that, y'all, have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.